Hello, sippers. Well, we're in New Orleans. We're sitting down with Kane and Table, James Beard awarded restaurant in New Orleans. We are so happy to give you this exclusive interview with Kirk Estopinal, and I hope you enjoy it. Keep on watching. Right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us,
No
Kurt.
problem at all. It's a
All right.
pleasure.
So you pronounce your last name for me, so I don't want to mess it up.
It's Estopinal.
Estopinal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So my name is Kirk Estopinal.
Okay.
I am a New Orleans native resident. I've been here my whole life. I grew up in New Orleans. Moved away for a few years to go to college, and then I spent some time in Chicago after Hurricane Katrina. But besides that, I'm born and raised here. I live here. My family's here. My kids are here.
Okay.
So, I love it here. And then I been in the restaurant business basically my whole life. Like my first job ever was a bus boy at a steakhouse in Algiers across the river.
Okay.
And, I've just kind of stuck with the biz the whole time. I worked a little bit of other jobs, but my experience level in hospitality is probably like 27 years.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's basically me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, if you don't know, we are sitting at Kane and Table. We are so pleased, okay, that he took the time out of his busy schedule with Tales of the Cocktail going on, and I'm sure he's inundated, but I'm sure this is also your home away from home because you put in some hours here, right?
I do, yeah.
All right. Kurt is a partner here along with Neil, which is a co-chair of Tales as well, right?
We also own Cure.
Yeah.
And then a few other places.
Just a few other places, not too many. All right, so we're going to open up. We always open up with icebreakers, okay? Yeah. So we're going to do a fun one. So the Super Bowl is going to be coming up, right? You ready for that? So if you could tell our audience, if they don't know anything about it, why they should be coming to Kane and Table for the Super Bowl.
Okay. I mean, first off, I think that we kind of have both buckets. So we're not only are we an excellent cocktail destination, bar in general, we have an amazing food program. So if you're looking for a nice little getaway from kind of the hustle and bustle of a lot of the things in the quarter, a little less touristy action, you can come and have a nice kind of secluded dinner in a place that feels very New Orleans.
Right.
We're lucky. Our building is a 200-year-old French Quarter property and has all that charm that you're looking for.
Definitely.
And the food's good, the drinks are good, the hospitality is high.
Yeah. So I get a feel of it's trendy, it's hip, it's cozy. How else would you describe it?
I think those are good.
Good?
I think,
I'm hitting all the hot spots there.
Yeah, look, we're definitely trendy, but we're not, we've been open 10 years now.
Yeah.
So we're comfortable. And I think for me, the big points are what I care about most is do we have a good product?
Right.
And are our guests leaving happy? And that's where it all stops with me. I tell my staff all the time, most everything we talk about is noise, unless there's a guest at the end of that interaction, anything we could figure it out. Right. So that's the number one priority for me is best guest experience has to be high.
Yeah, of course. You've won so many awards and accolades. Listen, it's a number of them. We don't have enough time to even talk about all the awards. So I know you're pleased about that.
Yeah,
so tell me what aspect makes you so special here at Kane and Table that everyone should know about.
Yeah, I think for us, we have probably one of the most interesting rum collections in the city. And I think that rather than just buying every rum that is available to purchase, we're kind of a little bit more thoughtful about do we think these are of quality enough that we carry them? So I think every rum we have on the Bach Bar, where we have over 100 or so, everyone is of quality, and then all of our staff are well trained in how to make a good drink beyond what's on the menu.
Okay.
And everything we do is house made. We're very much focused on the cocktail renewal of 15 years ago now. We've really kept our foot in that path. We're not very trend, we don't really chase a lot of trends in the cocktail world.
Okay.
To me, it's all about is your drink made from a high quality spirit with high quality ingredients and house made as many as possible, right? So no weird science food stuff, no weird purchases that we can't confirm the source material.
Good, okay.
I think that's important to me.
I'm sure, because you're a mixologist,
Yeah,
right? So tell me a little bit about your background in mixology.
Yeah, sure. So As I said, I worked in the restaurant business since I was a young man. I worked for like a kind of larger corporate restaurant chain in New Orleans for about 10 years. And I bartended for them, but I also was a salesperson for them for their catering back in the day.
Okay.
So it gave me some operational experience for how a restaurant, like some parts beyond just like the guest part. And then Hurricane Katrina came, and they were unsure. I mean, obviously everybody was unsure about what was going to happen, right? So I spoke with my superiors, and they were like, I was like, do I have a job? What are we doing? And they were like, we're not really sure. We know we're going to have to lose some people. We're trying to figure it out right now. And I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity to like let you give that job to somebody else if there is one. I'm going to try to move on. So I just kind of was like, okay, I'm out. And I'm going to move to Chicago. One of my best friends growing up had been living there for 10 years. He had kind of like an inside track with some restaurants there, and was like, dude, you can come up, I'll get you a job at a restaurant. And try it out, you know, like while New Orleans is figuring it out, you know, because it was going to be a hard road and where everybody knew it, right? So like, I was like, I'm going to take a chance. So I moved to Chicago.
So how old were you at this point?
28.
28, okay.
Yeah, 29, I guess. Okay. So I moved to Chicago right after the storm. I thought I would end up with like a cool job, and I ended up getting hired as a busboy at a brand new restaurant that was just opening in the Wicker Park area called Del Toro, which was a Spanish-focused restaurant. And they just didn't have room for me at the time, but the guys that own that, they have a large company called One-Off Hospitality. They have like a good deal of restaurants in Chicago of high regard, many James Beard Awards, etc. So I worked for Terry, who was one of the owners there at Del Toro, and I worked up from basically food runner to like front of house manager in about 6 months. And then that restaurant failed. Basically, one of their partners was stealing all the cash, and we all found out one day when everybody's checks bounced. So they were like, okay, well, we're gonna close. Right? So then I was like, well, I landed here, and like the first job I get was like weird theft, crazy stuff happened. But I was like, I'll figure it out, right? Well, Terry came to me on the side and was like, listen, I have this concept for this like thing. It's like a fancy cocktail bar. He's like, if you want to understand it, like take a trip to New York and go to these places. So I was like, okay, I'm interested, right? So I was like, I'll take the job. He's like, it's going to take us about 6 months to turn it over to the new spot. And I was like, okay. I got a job at like a Chinese restaurant that was fancy. It was fine. I really didn't like that job. I don't want to talk about it too much. But it was a good holdover. But I ended up going to New York, and I visited a couple bars, one of which was called Death and Company, and one of which was called Milk and Honey. And at Milk and Honey, I met a guy named Toby Maloney. He was the bartender there, and he was actually the guy that was coming to help open the bar in Chicago. And that bar became the Violet Hour, is what it's called. So I trained with Toby it was like a whole new kind of scene. Like there wasn't really a lot of these kind of cocktail bars at the time. You know, you had a couple in New York, maybe one in LA, but it was kind of a new idea, right? And it was like going to be like seated only, and everything's house made and la la la. So it was interesting to me. So I did the training, which was like very deadly serious, and it was like multiple weeks. We did that training, and I was like, this is actually really quite interesting. So then we opened Violet Hour, and I worked there for like a year and a half. In that time, with the knowledge I found, I was also serving tables at a restaurant called Spring, which was a James Beard winner for Best Chef the year before I started working there. And Sean McLean, the chef there, was really awesome. And they were like kind of poking around about drinks. They were like, you know, we see what you're doing over there. Like, can we do something like that here? So Toby helped me like put together my first like proposal as a consultant. So like within 2 years, I had like not known about this really to like I then was running 3 restaurants, bar programs.
So early 30s.
And serving and bartending at Violet Hour. All that stuff was going on. And I was like really going well. And my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, was like, I don't want to live in Chicago anymore. I want to move back to New Orleans. So I was
Like, oh my God, right?
It was a hard call, right?
Yeah.
But you know, honestly, I was like, if we were gonna get married and have children, like I would really like to do that in New Orleans because I have my family here, and it's just like I know it, and like I know what happens. You live in New York, you have kids, and you end up living in New York suburbs, and you're like, why the hell am I here anymore?
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, give me a year, and I stayed there and like kind of helped develop my career a little bit further, and I moved back home blindly with no job prospects. There was no cocktail bar here.
Wow.
And I came and moved here in July. I moved back the week of Tails. So I drove in from Chicago. I came in on a Sunday. It was a Tuesday. And back then, Tails was Wednesday to Sunday. So I hit the ground running. I was like, if I'm going to meet anybody that knows what I'm doing here, it's going to be that time, and like maybe find a cool job doing this somewhere or consultant work or whatever, it'll be there. So the second night at Tails, a friend of mine who has passed on had a liquor brand, and he was having a spirited dinner with the Death and Company kids. So I was like, I'm gonna go because I know those guys. Yeah. And I went, and he introduced me to Neil. Wow. So I met Neil, my business partner, like blindly. We did not know each other before that. And he was like, I'm working on this concept called Cure. It's a cocktail bar, right? And I was like, okay, cool. But like I had heard people talking about it. I was like, what kind of ice machine do you have? Yeah. And he was like, oh, we're buying a cold draft. And I was like, okay, this is real.
Right, this is real. I told you guys, ice is really important.
Yeah. So I was like, okay,
that's
like
the key.
let's talk, right?
Yeah.
So me and Neil had a couple of meetings after that, and like it had already kind of sailed, like as far as like buying the building and all that. So I was like, well, I'm coming as a bartender. That's fine. So I was working there for about a year, and then I became a partner there, and then we've kind of like grown, and we added another bar in the hotel, and that closed after 5 years.
So when you became partner, how old are you?
34.
Wow, so this is meant to be.
Yeah.
So this means follow your dreams.
Yeah, it was really like,
because you hustled, and look at him now.
Yeah, I worked a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of right place, right time, mixed with a lot of like, I will run through a wall to get this done kind of thing. I kind of found I had a natural knack for it. It just kind of, I don't know, it's just like sometimes you don't realize you're good at something until you really give it a shot, right? And I got trained, and I was like, I'm actually good at this, right? Yeah,
like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And I just kept running at it. I read all the books, and I did all the stuff, and I did like the contest circuit for years and all of that stuff.
Like, do you ever like think like you're home and like, wow, like how the hell did I get here?
Many times, many times.
That is unbelievable. I mean, from 28 to like mid-30s, like that's crazy.
Exactly. You know? And now I'm like 48. 48. And like we got a couple restaurants. To forget, like. The Violet Hour won the James Beard Award. The first year Cure opened. Then Cure won the James Beard Award.
I told you,
so, like,
awards.
So like we definitely, I have my resume for bartending looks pretty good.
That's why we're here.
And then we got the nom here for best beverage program for a restaurant a few years back.
Okay.
So we're into it. I'm into it. It's fun. The only thing I do miss is like really being able to bartend.
Okay.
Like, I don't really get a lot of chance to do that like I used to, and I'm trying to figure out my angle for
What about your home bartending skills?
I don't do it at home at all.
Really?
No, I mean, you're like,
you do it all, you see it all the time.
At work,
right.
I like, I'm big on that. Like, my wife, I make some drinks for her sometimes here and there, But everybody always is like, oh, I bet you get the best drinks in the world.
Right,
and
but
she's like, no, not really.
Like too tired by the time I get home,
I make my mom some stuff on like Christmas and stuff like that. She really likes amaretto sour, so I make her those,
Nice.
But yeah, I kind of leave work at work.
I totally get that. Okay, let's go over some nostalgia questions.
Yeah.
Time capsule, okay? If you could bury a time capsule here at Kane and Table, what would you put inside to represent Kane and Table, basically?
Ooh, that's hard. I think for me, like, I don't know, maybe like a letter from the staff at the time about like what they're thinking. Like, I just feel like what we do is like so into like the kind of the staff and the people that are here every day that I don't know how you bottle like people's
that speaks volumes though, that you care about your people.
And I also don't know like what booze is booze. And, you can always get it. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I mean, funnily, like for funny parts, I know what I'd put in there.
Yeah.
I would put a rat skeleton.
Okay.
I would put.
Can I ask why? I don't know.
It's the French Quarter.
That's French Quarter. That's right.
Yeah.
I should have known. Yeah.
It's like a
this
constant.
Is the East Coast girl. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the thing in the quarter. You gotta like, and with the courtyard, you're always like, oh no, is there one out there?
Right. Oh Lord.
But that one's like, that's been like the one thing that's like hurt my soul the most out of all the things we've ever done. But it's such an ingrained part of like working in the quarter.
Right.
I think it would be hilarious to have that there, But I would say like, it's tough to say, like I feel like, I don't know. I would like a bunch of pictures of all the people that worked here over the years. It's really like the main thing. There's been so many good people come through.
Let's talk about that. Memorable moments.
Yeah.
Like, what's like some of the top of your head that hit you like, oh, I cannot believe this has happened.
I mean, like the 10-year anniversary party that we just had is a fantastic element of that. Like, just kind of like seeing a lot of people that worked here over the years have moved on, and like they were all doing cool stuff. Some of them own bars, some of them have like done all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and it's been really nice to see that. The thing about the restaurant, I think, is like, it's my restaurant, like me and Neil are like, it's our life, right? But for a lot of people, we're just kind of like part of the river that there's, you know what I mean? I always talk about, it's like, I'm the river, and like people are just kind of the leaves washing by me sometimes, and you got to like reflect on the moments that you have right now. Because the people that work for you right now or work with you right now probably won't be there in 3 years or so, And the same thing goes for like your guests. Like we see like, every 3 years or so, like we kind of get new regulars. People get married, they move, their life moves on. You know what I mean? And so, like, I always feel like there's like a few mini periods of Kane and Table that are really special to me. It's like the first 3 years, it's like this whole island of itself, and then the next 3 years the same, and the last 3 years has been the same. And like doing COVID, I think COVID is like a very special time for me. Because we had a really nice little small team of people that like were really in it for, we were all together on it, It felt really good to like have such a special group of people like willing to like work in the like worst time to work, It was really fantastic, but yeah, I don't know, there's so many funny stories. I mean, there's a so upstairs where we are now, when we first rented it, this was just like a bombed out gross room, like no walls. It didn't have walls, it didn't have anything. It was just like these floors were like super bad. And it was just piles of trash and stuff up here, like from like apartments from years ago. Like we found a whole drum set in a pile of stuff like that you didn't know was there. When we started throwing it all out, there was an entire drum set. If that tells you how big of a pile of trash was in here, right?
Goodness.
But in that pile, some of the guys that were like doing the work up here found a skeleton of a cat. With a little leash, a little thing around its name, and it said Peanut, and it had a 504 number.
Goodness gracious.
That has been Peanut, So like Peanut has been like the password on so many weird apps and stuff here. And I feel bad for Peanut's owner, but I was like, do I call this?
Like, what do I do?
Because it was our area code, right? I was like, do I call this? I didn't. I was like, it's been so long, they probably don't want to be reminded that Peanut's gone.
Peanut. It's all good.
That's
You're
a
in
weird
a good
one.
place.
That's a funny one, I mean, even our first day here was wild. We opened for Tails. So when we took over, this was like a Russian like absinthe and vodka kind of theme bar called Pravda. And like Lower Decatur is like where we are here, is like really was like the stomping ground of me and my friends as kids. Down the street there was this old like hall. That's really crazy because now you're an owner of a restaurant. You're like stomping around as a kid. Exactly. there was a place called it's called Maison now in Frenchman, but that was called the Faubourg Center, and it was it was a place where people from the French market, it was an old horse stable.
Okay.
Interior building, okay? And there was like stalls in there.
Yeah.
And the people from the French market back in the day would cart their stuff and park it in those horse stalls and lock it up, and they rented it up, right?
Okay.
And then at night, it was just an empty hall. And these two old hippie dudes, Pierre and Francois, that owned it, would rent it out to kids for shows. So we had like all these punk rock shows there where it was $50 to rent it out for the night.
Jeez,
right? And then you like charge for bands, and but I mean, like, I'm not kidding. Like, I played 1,000 shows there, and like made thousands of friends there.
Right.
I met my wife there. Like everything, and like so this whole area of Decatur
this is like your roots.
Yeah, it really is like special to be here as a person that grew up here.
I love that.
It feels really good, and I've been in this building like as it's been 4 other places since I was a kid,
right?
You know? And it's cool to kind of like be, you know, it's like home in a neat way.
Well, that brings me right into the next question, like community and culture.
Yeah,
that's big for you. I can tell.
You
know what I mean? Your staff and all your memories and so forth. You know, and so looking at the community, like how do you feel? Like you worked so hard to get through Katrina and then worked so hard to get through COVID. Like, how does it feel to be standing here now and you're still standing?
Feels good, you know? I mean, I think a lot of that is luck and a lot of that is hard work. Just like, I mean, the reason I'm here is a tandem event of both of those things. I really believe that.
Right.
I mean, look, New Orleans is a special place. And if you're from here, it has a special feeling for you, right? And I think people come here and visit and love it, and like they think they understand it, but it's not. I don't think they fully get it. Right? I mean, it's southern, and it's just like I don't know. It's lovely here. It's a bit more expensive to live here than it used to be. But New Orleans has always kind of been a place where like kind of classic stuff can still survive and thrive, you know, like the music scene here is very much based on like music from a few generations ago. That is like really what is going on constantly, right? And it's a preservationist city, you know. And if you look at like to me, like I always talk about like when like the French Quarter became what it is with like the historical society and stuff like that since like the 30s basically. There's like the like preservationist aspect, and then there's like the modernist like business aspect. And if you look at Royal Street and Bourbon Street, you can see that divide real clearly, you know. And I really like am more into the like Royal Street aspects of New Orleans culture than the Bourbon Street access, you know. But at the same time, in New Orleans, like those things can exist right next to one another, and it's fine, right? Like everybody, I think to me, it's like, look, just do you and don't bother me, and we're good, right? And that's kind of like the whole New Orleans aesthetic in itself, right? Everybody's got their own bag. Do your bag. I ain't trying to tell you that your bag sucks. It's just your bag,
do your own
right?
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
So I don't know, like that's the magic of it here. It's easy. It's not. It doesn't have to be such a hustle bustle, stressful kind of way
it's
of
laid
life,
back.
You know?
Yeah, totally laid back.
Like,
it's real cozy.
In Chicago, like if I like stayed home all day and watched TV, like I wouldn't tell anyone I did that.
Right.
In New Orleans, I'd be like, I didn't do shit today. And people were like, good for you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like drinking whiskey on my porch instead of like getting the work done or whatever.
I get it.
And I think that like you can get away with that here a lot easier, you know. It's nice.
It's nice.
You know?
Yeah, definitely nice. Let's get into the creative process. All right, let's talk about these drinks you brought up.
Yeah. So I mean, we got 2 here. They're both like not really our own inventions. They're both classics. So we have the Hurricane and Table. So the Hurricane and Table is based on the Hurricane cocktail, right? It's famous from what's the bar that does it? Pat O'Brien's, you know. So they made Pat O'Brien's is like where the Hurricane is made famous. It's made from rum and a thing called Fasanola. Fasanola was like a kind of fruit tropical mixer. It was available in yellow, blue, and red. And nobody really knows what the flavors actually were supposed to be. It stopped being made a long time ago. The story goes, there was a whiskey that Pat O'Brien's wanted to buy. In order to get the deal on the whiskey, they had to buy a whole lot of this rum that they didn't want to get the whiskey at the right price. So then they had to come up with a cocktail to sell, right? And the Hurricane comes from that, right?
Okay.
So we kind of like tasted the Hurricane, and it's like a weird syrupy kind of like medicine. It kind of tastes like triaminic. I don't know if you remember triaminic medicine, right? It's like a weird medicine-y taste. I don't like it, right? It's like some kind of like cherry, strawberry something, right? And it's like doesn't have a lot of acid, so it's like doesn't taste refreshing like you would expect it to. So we kind of took that idea and we said, okay, well, like Fascinola is supposed to be this tropical fruit mixer, and then like it comes from an era in like the 50s, 60s where like Hawaii and like that was like a thing, right? And, like Hawaiian punch, what is that really based on, right? So, but the theory is like there's a thing called POG, all right? And it's passion fruit, pink guava, and orange. And you mix those together.
Remember.
You know, and you can buy POG like in Hawaii in a carton and drink. It's a drink already made, a pre-made like juice beverage, right? And it's just those juices mixed. So we went with that kind of approach, right? Because everybody in like the tiki world, people make the Hurricane and it's yellow because they use passion fruit, right? But to me, like that was cool. But like when you think about Hurricane, you think about that glass and that color. It needs to be red. So I was like unhappy with, while it tasted great with just like rum and lime or lemon and passion fruit syrup that we made in house, it was fine, but it wasn't special, right? So I went with the POG idea. So we went with passion fruit as the base for the syrup, and then orange zest in there just to give it a little orange zesty vibe. And then the guava, I use a jelly, like a guava jelly, like me and Fredo, my chef here, we grew up together. His mom used to, she has guava trees in their yard. And she would make guava jelly. And they used to eat these little galletitas, they're like little crackers with cream cheese, and then the guava jelly, and eat those, right? It's like guava jelly is like, you know, it's like a commercially made product, but it has a thing. I really like it, right? So it was like an excuse to use something that I had. So I melt some of that into the passion fruit syrup that we make. So it's fresh passion fruit pulp, a little bit of guava jelly, and then sugar, and then orange zest, and then we add hibiscus for color. And the hibiscus is nice because it has like Caribbean like roots, and you know it's a thing. Like Jamaica as a tea is really tasty, and the cool thing about hibiscus is dry. Like it really dries your mouth out. And hibiscus also, I mean, passion fruit also is very dry and acidic. So that with the lime and all, I was like, because I really wanted to make this drink refreshing, right? It'd be easy to make it sweet, you know, but I wanted to hit all the notes and make it as like true to the real like historical oracle, but also make it something I would drink, you know, something that I would say is a good high quality cocktail. So that's it. And there's lime juice, and then we use two types of rum. We use Marsh House rum, which is like a kind of Bacardi style, Carta Blanca style rum. So it's like an aged rum and a light rum mixed together and then filtered. And then we use a little bit of like a Guyanan rum to give it a little bit of extra texture. And that's it. Crushed ice, simple, tasty.
And ice is important, right, Kurt?
Yeah. So we use the Scotsman ice. It's like pebble ice. It's like people call it Sonic ice. You know? And a good tip is like if there's a Sonic near you, they sell that ice. You can buy it.
Really?
So if you have like a cocktail party, you can go to Sonic and buy bags of that crushed ice. It's a really good thing to know. Like I always tell people that, like,
you can get that good ice.
Yeah, you want to drink like a Mai Tai at home, and you want that. You don't have to buy some weird machine. You just go buy a bag for $2.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so that's that drink there. We call it the Hurricane and Table because why not?
Why not?
And also, I was unsure if like the Hurricane was actually owned by. You know, it's like the dark and stormy or the dark and stormy. You know, that's like someone owns that, so you got to be careful.
Be very careful.
And like, I just wanted to pay like full respect to that cocktail as what it is, and make the best one I could. Right. To me, like you come to New Orleans, it's on your list. Everybody's gonna say, "Oh, you gotta have a Hurricane, right?"
Right.
But like, do you really want to drink like some like gross version of that, or do you want to have like a really nice high end one, right? You know, like you could have fried chicken anywhere. Right. But like, you know, why have grocery store fried chicken when you could have Popeyes,
right?
Or why you're gonna have, so we're gonna have a Hurricane. I tried to make something that matched my abilities, right? So that's that drink there.
Gotcha.
And then we do a Mai Tai as well.
Mai Tai, okay.
So classic Mai Tai, orgeat, which is like an almond milk-based syrup, basically, with orange flower water in it. A little bit of like a curacao or like a orange liqueur, but it's dry style. We use a French one called Ferrand, Pierre Ferrand dry curacao. And then we used a blend up of 3 rums and lime. So we use Martinique style rum, JMBSOP. We use Rivers, which is like kind of an aguardiente style rum, just a little bit of that in there. And then Appleton 12 years to give it a little bit of body. So Jamaican, but without that funky Jamaican thing.
Right.
But it's a nice, like, tasty little simple, you know, classical Mai Tai.
So we can make this at home, maybe.
Yeah, all these are really, honestly, like, you can actually Google the recipe for this.
Okay.
It's out there. Like, I've told people how this gets made. There's no, like, secrets in my game.
No secrets to it, right?
No, I know that really, like, most people are innately lazy.
Yeah.
So they will
like,
just
how
come.
Can I make this easy?
Look, it's easier to just come here and get one, right?
Right.
But if you live across the world and you need one, you want to make sure you can
just
get
look up that recipe. You'll be all good.
There.
Or look on Shake and Stir and Mingle. You can find it, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the 2.
I tell you, and the garnishes are really important too.
Yeah,
you gotta top it off.
So the Hurricane, you do the blown over umbrella. Like that's on purpose.
I got it.
You know, and then we do a little bit of dried lime. We use the dry citrus peels a lot. They're nice. They look good. They're consistent, and they don't really add flavor or anything to the drink. It's just a visual look.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I tell you, Kurt, it's been such. I hope you found this interesting.
It was
and
great.
fun
Yeah,
and
it's fun.
engaging,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I could talk all day, honestly.
It's all good. We love to hear you talk because you really bring some enlightenment on what we should be coming to, and that's Kane and Table here in New Orleans, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Kurt, let's make this happen.
Awesome.
Cheers
to you. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Nice and good and
all
refreshing,
right.
you know?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I hope
Thank
you enjoyed
so much.
it.
I did.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Get ready to indulge in the best of the best sourced from across social media for the ultimate cocktail experience. Thanks for watching.